if you see me nodding my head, it's because in a past life I was a radio talk show host. And I've covered.
This mic, I think, I wonder if this is getting in the way.
It's on.
It's off? Then I got one. Yours is on. This one?
That-
I think it's you, Rich.
Yeah, it might be. Actually, I think it was my ring.
Wow.
No, it wasn't my ring.
Let me try it here.
Yeah, it's on.
It's the only thing with wireless is.
Hello?
Are you there?
Well, he's switched mics, Jorge.
Did he?
He switched mics,
Oh, he did? Oh.
but the other one isn't on
Tap
yet.
on it?
Hello?
Yeah.
There we
There you
go.
go. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not the mic. Must be my magnetic personality.
Say something.
Say something,
Say it.
Well, there's static.
and there's feedback.
Oh, the other mic is off.
Yep.
Now try it.
Test, test.
It's better.
That seems better. All right, so my name is Rich Gerard, and if you saw me nodding and smiling as these other two gentlemen were speaking, it's because I covered just about everything that they were talking about while a radio talk show host in Manchester. And I can tell you quite honestly that school boards provided me during my 6+ years on the air with some of the most unbelievable storylines that you could ever find. Among my favorites are a couple stories from Bedford where they deceived and then lied to parents about risk behavior survey. The International Baccalaureate thing was something that we covered. Tom Murray was a freak, between Tom, Ken, Daniel Popovich Mueller, among others. Wyndham was, that's how we say Wyndham, by the way, from the west side of Manchester. Was a frequent topic in the corruption that was there, and there was a network of us, myself, Kimberly Morin, Greenwich Rock, alternative media, if you will, that was routinely exposing these types of abuses. Police were called on citizens who tried to speak in Hooksett. A reporter, a compatriot of mine, Bill Wynn from GoffstownToday.com, was tossed out of a room, escorted by police because the chairman of the Goffstown School Board didn't like where he placed his camera. And, you know, we were there covering those meetings because we caught conflicts of interest between board members and their employers and contracts that they were awarding, you know, controversies at middle schools. Maybe everybody doesn't, but there was one year that the Hooksett School Board elections saw triple the normal turnout because of the chaos that was caused by some outspoken citizens and a pesky radio talk show host that shined the light on just stuff that you can't make up. And, you know, it was almost normal to report citizens being threatened with arrest or removed because the content of their speech to their school boards was wrong. I'm a Manchester native. I'm in my second term as an at-large member of the Board of School Committee. I ran for two reasons, primarily. One, I get tired of the administration lying to me as a reporter and lying to the public about things they were doing. And while we were rather good at exposing what was going on, we were rather unsuccessful in getting people to run to challenge the people that were both enabling and executing on these improper actions. So the other thing that caused me to run was a failure to communicate with parents. The district simply did not want parents involved in education, and they did their damned level best to make sure parents didn't know what was happening in the classroom. And in fact, one of my proposals, 3 years old, still sitting on the table, is to get the teachers to send home, you know, a quarterly or a trimesterly syllabus that gives parents at least a rough idea of the coursework that's going to be done, the books that are going to be read, the video materials that are going to be used in teaching their kids. You know, because the state of New Hampshire passes laws and school boards then go and pass policies that they're required saying, oh yes, we notify the parents, or you must notify the parents of A, B, C, D. And the administrators with a straight face will sit there and tell you that parents have a right to opt out of things that you raise in a board meeting, but when you ask them what they did to notify the parents that those materials were coming, you know, it's like they don't know. Or they're forced to admit that they didn't actually follow the policy. So I get tired of parents being kept in the dark. I get tired of being lied to as a citizen, as a journalist, if you can call me that, a broadcast journalist. And I said, oh, what the hell? What do I have to lose by an election? And then the year that I ran, I was the only person to actually knock off an incumbent. And that's no easy
When you
feat.
killed him? What?
But you know, Manchester School Board takes a lot of knocks, and some of them rightly so. But Manchester, in many ways, does things right, and does things better than a lot of people give it credit for, and certainly a whole lot better than what I've seen in a lot of towns. And it doesn't matter which town, because the board there, it's a 15-member board, which includes 2 at-large members, 12 members elected from their districts, which we call wards, and then the mayor, who by charter is the ex officio chairman of the school board. So it's a big board, and so if you have 5 or 6 people, it's not a majority, but it sure is enough to cause trouble and make it very uncomfortable for people to try to defend some of the practices. And one of the things that a group of us did before we were sworn in 3 years ago, at the beginning of my first term, was we came up with a whole bunch of rules changes. And one of the reasons why we've got the screen down and the projectors, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that we put online and some of the things that we have changed so that we are more transparent. How many of you, for example, you all have to sign the manifest, right?
Yep.
Now, how easy is it for a citizen to actually see the manifest?
Can't.
You can't. I mean, you could, in theory, legally, you could say, I want to see the manifest, right?
It's requested
Well,
regularly.
let me tell you how it works in Manchester, just as an example, because we're supposed to talk a little bit about things that we've changed or to get close to doing it right. In Manchester, we have a finance committee, a subcommittee of our board. By the way, all of our committees are made up entirely of school board members. Staff does not sit as a member on any of our committees. And if you have school districts where staff members comprise officially parts of your committee, especially in places like, well, I don't know, Timberlane, where they tend to outnumber the elected officials, get rid of that. That is a stupid idea. The idea that an administrator that is overseen by elected officials sits at the table and has an equal voice and a vote on par with the elected official is a complete perversion of their role and a complete abdication of the school board's authority. The staff in Manchester, when they come to the board or they come to a committee, they answer to the committee. They present to us. They answer our questions. They give us the information we ask for. And when we make a decision, it is their responsibility to do it. They can't sit on a committee and outvote us. So you do not, newsflash, you do not have oversight of a group of people that you create as equals at your table. And oh, by the way, they have more numbers than you do, so you get outvoted. This is not oversight. Okay, and I know some of you come from smaller boards where that could be a difficult thing. Suck it up. Or make every get rid of committees and just do everything as a body, as a committee of the whole, as the whole body. But so anyway, our finance committee, each week or each month, members of our finance committee are appointed by the chair to review and sign off on the manifest. Well, as a practical matter, there's no way that a human being who is not a school board member can get to the manifest, and even if you are a school board member, they hate to see you coming, by the way. Because I actually am the guy who goes through the receipts and says, what is this? You know, I've caught unauthorized payments in the tens of thousands of dollars that I put a stop to because I refused to sign, and the administration had stopped doing what it was doing. You find all kinds of interesting things when you look. I know how much money we pay homeless families to transport their kids from Gilmington Iron Works to Manchester at school every day, federal law, McKinney-Vento Homeless Act. Oh yeah, it's great stuff, okay? You know, we're paying some of these kids $1,000 a month to drive to and from school because they're quote homeless. Anyway, so what we did, one of the rules changes that we made, which was something that I proposed and really had to fight for, is we don't have the entire manifest on our finance committee agenda, but you can see a listing of every check that was cut.
Crop TV.